Dear viewers, the following stories are inspired by real events. However, the names of the characters have been changed to protect privacy. Story 1. Night on Death Highway. A sweltering summer night in 1978. On a deserted stretch of Route 66. Arizona. Kevin, a 40-year-old man, was driving his old truck to make an overnight delivery. He was a seasoned long-haul driver, accustomed to lonely roads and the strange stories his colleagues often told each other. As Kevin's truck rounded a sharp bend, he saw a white vintage car parked on the side of the road ahead. Its headlights still on, he thought someone might be in trouble, so he slowed down to take a look. As he got closer, he recognized it as a beautiful 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air. A classic car. Kevin pulled over, intending to ask the driver if they needed help. He got out of his truck and approached the Bel Air. Strangely, there was no one inside. The car doors were closed, and there were no signs that anyone had recently left. He knocked on the window, calling out, "Hello? Is everything all right?" There was no answer. Kevin felt a bit odd. He tried to open the car doors, but they were all locked. He walked around the car, observing it more closely. Inside, everything was intact, as if its owner had just stepped away for a moment. Suddenly, Kevin heard the faint sound of an engine starting from inside the Bel Air. He startled and stepped back. The engine noise grew louder, and the car began to shake violently. The headlights shone brightly, directly into Kevin's face, causing him to squint. Kevin stood frozen, astonished to see the classic car start on its own. The car door suddenly swung open, and he heard a shrill voice coming from inside. Even though he couldn't see anyone. "Let's go, we have to go now." A cold fear spread through Kevin's body. He didn't understand what was happening. He quickly ran back to his truck, climbed into the cab, and locked the doors. He looked in his rearview mirror, seeing the white Bel Air still running, its door wide open. Then, the most terrifying thing happened. The Bel Air slowly rolled forward, moved onto the road, and began to drive. It moved very fast, chasing after Kevin's truck. Kevin pressed down on the accelerator, trying to outrun the ghostly car that was following him in the darkness on the deserted road. Kevin drove at top speed, but the Bel Air kept pace with him in a bizarre way. It didn't fall behind, even on steep inclines or sharp turns. Kevin looked in his rearview mirror, clearly seeing that there was no one behind the wheel of that car. He tried to contact dispatch via radio, but there was no signal. He was completely isolated on this road, with only the ghostly car chasing him in the darkness. Kevin began to feel desperate. He knew he was facing something that couldn't be explained by ordinary logic. Suddenly, the Bel Air sped up, swerving right in front of Kevin's truck, forcing him to slam on the brakes. The truck skidded across the road, narrowly avoiding crashing into the shoulder. Kevin gasped for breath, trying to stay calm. He looked at the Bel Air, seeing it stop right in front of him, blocking his path. The door of the Bel Air opened once again, and the shrill voice echoed, clearer this time. "It's time. We have to go together." Kevin stared at the car, trying to see if anyone was inside. In the dim moonlight, he caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure sitting in the driver's seat. But he couldn't make out their face. An icy chill ran down Kevin's spine. He remembered the stories people told about this stretch of road, about mysterious accidents with no apparent cause. They said that the spirits of those who died in those accidents still lingered here, looking for passers-by to take with them. Kevin decided he couldn't keep running forever. He turned off the truck's engine, took a deep breath, and opened the door. He approached the Bel Air, trying to appear calm. "What do you want?" he called out loudly into the car. There was no answer. The car continued to run, its headlights shining directly into Kevin's face. He looked more closely inside, and this time, he saw more clearly. In the driver's seat, a man with a bloody face and horrific injuries was staring straight at him, his eyes glowing red with hatred. The man slowly smirked, a gruesome smile that made Kevin feel like his heart had stopped. Then, the Bel Air sped off, disappearing into the darkness. Kevin stood frozen on the road, not understanding what had just happened. He knew that tonight he had encountered something beyond human comprehension, and he would never forget the terrifying night on that death highway. Story 2. The Unmanned Cadillac. Late night in November 2008. In a quiet residential area on the outskirts of Detroit, Michigan, Ashley, a 19-year-old girl who had just passed her driving test, was sitting in her living room, engrossed in a horror movie. Outside, it was freezing cold, and the wind whistled through the bare trees in gusts. Suddenly, Ashley heard the sound of a car engine from the yard. She frowned, thinking her parents must have come home. But when she looked out the window, she didn't see her family's familiar car. Instead, she saw her dad's old black 1976 Cadillac Fleetwood that he had bought a long time ago and left in the garage because it no longer ran. Ashley was extremely surprised to see the Cadillac's headlights turn on. She was sure her dad had taken the keys out, and its battery had been dead for ages. She thought maybe someone had sneaked into the garage and deliberately turned on the headlights as a prank. But then, Ashley was even more horrified when she heard the Cadillac's engine faintly rumble to life. The car shook slightly, then slowly backed out of the garage. Ashley's jaw dropped. She couldn't believe her eyes. That old, dilapidated car was moving on its own without anyone inside. Ashley quickly ran out of the house, standing on the sidewalk watching the Cadillac slowly roll down the street. The car moved at a very slow pace, its headlights illuminating the deserted road. Ashley tried to call her parents, but her phone had no signal. She decided to walk after the car. Observing as she went, the Cadillac turned left, then right, passing through the silent streets of the neighborhood. Ashley felt a strange fear rising in her heart. She couldn't understand why that car could move on its own like that. The Cadillac stopped in front of an abandoned house at the end of the street. A place that, according to neighborhood rumors, had been the scene of a terrible murder many years ago. The house was dark and cold, exuding a terrifyingly eerie aura. The Cadillac's door suddenly opened, and Ashley saw a faint, almost transparent shadowy figure step out of the driver's seat. The figure stood silently for a moment, then slowly walked towards the abandoned house and disappeared inside. Ashley stood frozen, unable to believe what she had just witnessed. Ashley stood still for a moment, trying to calm down. She felt a strange urge, a need to know what was happening. She decided to approach the abandoned house. Ashley cautiously walked towards the house. The rusty iron gate creaked loudly as she pushed it open. The house's grounds were desolate, with weeds growing everywhere. The house was dark, its broken window panes looking like black, empty eyes staring at her. She gently stepped inside. A cold and damp atmosphere enveloped her. The smell of mold and a metallic odor hit her nostrils, making her feel uneasy. Ashley walked down the dark hallway, listening to every sound. Suddenly, she heard light footsteps on the floor above. Ashley's heart pounded. She was sure she wasn't alone in this house. She slowly moved towards the stairs, each step cautious and quiet. Reaching the second floor, Ashley saw a room at the end of the hallway with a faint light shining from within. She gently pushed the door open and stepped inside. The scene before her horrified her. A man with a bloody face and gruesome wounds was sitting in an old armchair, staring blankly at her with lifeless eyes. Beside him, on an old table, was a photograph of a black Cadillac Fleetwood. The man slowly stood up and moved towards Ashley. He didn't say anything, just raised his bloodied hand as if to touch her. Ashley screamed in terror. Backing away, she realized that this was the spirit of the Cadillac's former owner, who had died in this house many years ago. Suddenly, Ashley heard the sound of a car engine from outside. She quickly ran downstairs and looked out the window. The black Cadillac Fleetwood was slowly rolling out of the yard, heading towards the street. The ghostly figure of the man was still sitting in the driver's seat. Looking straight ahead, Ashley ran out of the house, watching the ghost car disappear into the darkness. She knew that the spirit of that man was bound to the car, and it would continue its never-ending journey on the deserted roads. Ashley never dared to go near that abandoned house again, and every time she saw an old Cadillac Fleetwood, she would shiver, remembering that terrifying night. Story 3. The Bloody '65 Mustang. Autumn of 2012, in the small town of Millwood, Pennsylvania, Ben, a young 25-year-old mechanic, had just bought a beat-up 1965 Ford Mustang for a bargain price. He was a classic car enthusiast and intended to restore it to sell for a profit. The weather was chilly, and yellow leaves covered the road leading to his repair shop. As Ben pulled the rusty red Mustang into the shop, he felt a strange coldness envelop the space around the car. Even though the sun was still shining outside, he shrugged, thinking it was probably just the musty smell from the car not being used for a long time. Ben began the restoration work. While dismantling the interior, he found an old dagger hidden under the driver's seat, its blade rusted. He also discovered several dark brown stains on the car floor and seats, looking like old, dried blood. He shivered, wondering what had happened to this car. In the following days, as Ben worked on the Mustang, he started experiencing strange phenomena. Sometimes, he would hear faint whispers coming from inside the car, even when no one else was there. His tools would occasionally fall to the ground on their own, and the lights in the shop would flicker for no apparent reason. Curious, Ben decided to look into the car's history. He contacted previous owners and discovered that this Mustang had once belonged to a man named Richard, who had been brutally murdered inside the car in the 1970s. The case had shocked the town and was never solved. After learning the horrifying truth about the car, Ben began to feel uneasy. The strange occurrences happened more frequently and were more frightening. He often felt like someone was watching him while he worked on the car. Sometimes, he would even see shadows flicker in the rearview mirror, even though no one was behind him. Ben considered giving up and selling the car, but an inexplicable force seemed to be holding him back. He felt compelled to finish restoring the Mustang, as if some task was waiting for him. One late night, while Ben was alone in the shop, he heard the sound of the Mustang's car door opening. He startled and turned around, horrified to see the driver's seat slowly lower as if someone had just sat down. In the darkness, he caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure sitting behind the steering wheel, and its glowing red eyes stared straight at him. Ben stood frozen, unable to move. The shadowy figure in the Mustang slowly raised its hand to the steering wheel. The car faintly rumbled to life. Then the headlights turned on, shining directly into Ben's face. He could see the figure's face more clearly. It was a man with horrific wounds on his face. His eyes filled with resentment. The ghostly man growled eerily. Then the Mustang sped out of the shop, crashing into the brick wall, sending shattered bricks flying. Ben screamed in terror, trying to run, but he felt an invisible force holding his legs firmly in place. The Mustang reversed, then lunged towards Ben again. He closed his eyes, bracing for the worst, but instead of feeling pain, he heard a piercing scream. Then everything went silent. Ben slowly opened his eyes. The Mustang had stopped, just inches away from him. The ghostly man had vanished. But on the car's hood, he clearly saw words written in blood: revenge. Ben realized that Richard's spirit was still trapped in the car, and he wanted revenge for his death. Ben decided to help Richard find justice. He began investigating the old murder case, searching for any information that could help the police find the killer. After many days of searching, Ben found some important clues. He discovered that Richard had been murdered by his business partner, who had stolen his assets. The killer's name was still alive and living in hiding in another town. Ben provided this information to the police. After an investigation, the police arrested the killer. Justice was finally served for Richard. Since then, the strange occurrences around the Mustang disappeared. Ben finished restoring the car and sold it to a collector. He believed that Richard's spirit had finally found peace. But he would never forget the bloody '65 Mustang and the terrifying encounter with the ghost of its former owner. If you found this story chilling and want to hear more true horror stories, please remember to subscribe to my channel to support me.